So Monty, I don't know if you want to stop sharing my screen, and I don't know if you want to have any conversation. I have no idea how long we've been here. My dinner's been sitting here for 2 hours. I still have to eat, so I don't know. But look, I have given you cues and clues about some of the things that I think are kind of silly. I'm not really pushing anybody to do one thing or the other. But you can see that there are good arguments on both sides of a lot of these. I would encourage you, if you are not clear, to keep going with your research. You can look and see who's funding these by going to the California Secretary of State's office. Cal Access has all that information. And of course, if you go to the no and yes, there's one thing I would recommend. Do not watch the commercials. Ignore the commercials. I have not watched one commercial. And you know what? I think that I've tried to give you as fair of a pro and con as possible without having seen one commercial, because they tug on your heartstrings. They bring tears to your eyes. They make you want to rip your hair out. And they also are trying to instill fear in you. Look at the facts. Look at how they're written. The law, these proposed laws are written. If you need to go back, read how these things are actually assessed and analyzed by the Legislative Analyst Office. Look at how they're assessed in a kind of, and they are nonpartisan. They work for government, but they're nonpartisan. Look at those assessments and analyses first, but make up your minds and think for yourselves. And that is my basic message to you.
Thank you, Renee.
You're welcome.
Does anyone have any questions before we let Renee go, because she's been waiting to eat?
I can start munching if you don't mind, but yeah, tell me what you think.
Does anyone
questions
on any?
Look, carrots.
I don't have a question. I just, again, want to thank you for doing this. This is really helpful. I appreciate you taking your time out of your day to do this, especially in this format as well. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much.
You are welcome. I'm glad to do it. It was a big job actually, but I'm glad to do it. Awesome. Anybody else have any questions? I still do have to go look up the last part of that, the moving out of state one for the privacy law. I really don't know the answer to that. I'm just honest about it. But I wasn't able to tap anybody to get the answer to that question. So.
I guess if you could talk a little bit about why it's so important to vote for the propositions and the things that are on the ballot this year.
Yeah. People are directly affected by every one of these ballot initiatives. They are really important. The way that I've given, there may be things that I have not really gone into depth enough with. So if you're not really clear about Prop 13 or not really clear about how some of the other laws might have contributed to these, I could understand that. I think the stuff we've talked through actually are a pretty good basis though, for making some decisions. And you can open up your general election guide. You can go online to find it. It's there too. If you actually, there's a quick reference guide that looks like this. It's it'll remind you of some of those issues. And talk to people. Just talk to people about it. Talk about these with Uber drivers and Lyft drivers for that matter. Of course, they may not know how the bill is, or if they're not bills, they're initiatives. They may not know how they're written. But, getting more perspectives from people who know things about these and are affected by them are also important. So, yeah. But voting is important. They do affect you. They'll affect you directly, especially as you saw, the 17-year-olds can vote in the primary. I think that's an interesting one.
Well, does anyone have any comments or questions before we end the call on voting in general, or
voting in general? Look, this is if there's ever been a time to vote, vote now. Vote once, but vote, right? And there's my message to you. You guys have a lot of power. You have a lot of power over your friends. You have a lot of power over your parents and your neighbors and people who might not have thought about voting before. Convince them. Tell them you're voting. Tell them you've already voted or that they can vote and that it's going to make a big difference if a lot of people vote, especially if a lot of people turn out to vote, right? It sends us such a huge message. You actually have more power in your vote when fewer people turn out to vote, because in fact, fewer people are voting, right? But I would encourage you, because you have some knowledge here, to spread what you know, to be, to spread that information, and to try to convince other people to vote, because you have that power. People listen to you. You are trusted.
Before we end, I do want to say that if y'all haven't received your ballots yet, to maybe call your registrar of voters for your county, just to make sure that you receive it. A lot of people haven't, and election day is literally like in 2 weeks. So you want to make sure that you have that, and just like research, keep researching and keep learning. But I just want to say thank you, Renee, for taking the time to do that. It was great, very informative, and I appreciate it. So I'll stop recording now, and this will be available.
One more thing. If you haven't received your ballots, go to Where's My Ballot? The California Secretary of State, Where's My Ballot? And you can actually input your name and information, and you can track your ballot. Where's my ballot? And you can see where it is, if it's been put into a drop box and has been picked up, or it's been received by the, or if it's like it says it's been delivered and you never got it, then you have a problem. You're going to have to request another one, and they'll have to, because everything has a little barcode on it. So Where's My Ballot? You can track your ballot. So I really do encourage you to do that. And don't be worried about giving up your information. They already have it. It's like, oh, I have to register for this site. Oh my goodness. They already have it. The Secretary of State already has it. So, okay.
Well, thank you.
All right. Good night. Good luck with your voting.
Thank you.
Thank
You're
you
welcome.
again.